that felt like an eternity, we are finally here in Austria to kick off Season 4 for Division 2 here for the ISRL Championship. Hello and welcome. I am Fallen Monkeys, your host here in the commentator's booth, joined once again this season by ISRL Asunik. Asunik, I ask this question all the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I am excited to get the season kicked off with the Tier 2 guys, so let's jump into qualifying.
Oh yeah, and speaking of, we are jumping right in as we've just finished loading in. And for those who are new here to the stream, it is a 18-minute short qualifying followed by a full 50% race. And oh, look at this. It looks like for the first race of the season here in Division 2, we are going to have at least a little bit of weather playing part, at least for qualifying. I'm not too sure about the race. Hopefully we can get a little bit of insider knowledge as the session goes along. But it looks as though it is going to be an intermediate tire qualifying from what I can see with the conditions. But we will get confirmation just as it looks as though we are having a first driver out on the grid. It looks to be a Haas car. Let's take a look. Is that... oh my goodness. I really should have put on my glasses for this. It looks like that's Laparta, who's going to be the first out on track to start their flying lap. And it does look like as if they are on the intermediate tires from what I saw. So as we tune into Laparta doing his out lap, getting ready for his flying lap, what are some things that we should be looking out for? Maybe some storylines, drivers that we should be keeping an eye out for Season 4 here in the first race and as we're going to be progressing through the season?
Well, obviously the big talking point right now is who can beat Vito. Probably the most consistent driver other than Sweet Crown 19 in ISRL at the moment. As we saw him do in Season 3, methodically made his way through the season, very little mistakes, always bringing home the points, and ultimately led to him locking up the championship. But we do have some drivers coming up through the ranks. We got D-Morts coming from Tier 3, or Division 3 last season, as well as the champion Mavako. Do we see... I don't think Mavako's here today, actually.
I'm taking a look
nope,
at
he's not.
No, I actually don't see him here in the driver listings as Laparta is just now starting his flying lap. So a little bit, I guess we could say, advantage Vito early on since, well, he is here for the first race. But of course, we'll have to see how this race plays out because lots can happen. And of course, with Vito rocking a little bit of a different attire than what we're used to. I've gotten so accustomed to seeing him in that Ferrari. But it looks like this time around, as I'll switch to him quickly, there he is on your screen, riding that very lovely looking Red Bull. Maybe a little bit of bias on my end with that, but rocking the blue team instead of the red team as we're so used to seeing him in the past. But of course, the driver behind the wheel is still the same, so I'm sure the pace is going to be there nonetheless. Now, something I do want to bring up as well is, I believe, a driver, we saw him in Formula Fridays. We saw him as well, I believe, near the end of Season 3, but it's Passassin 72
Yes.
in the Alfa Romeo car. And I do feel as though he is going to be very much so bringing the battle to Vito, to potentially Mivako as well, and to all of these lead drivers in Division 2. At least if Formula Fridays is anything to indicate, with Formula Fridays, he was competing with some of these quick drivers of Division 1, as I'm going to have to get used to saying that as well. But
yes.
Definitely keep an eye out on Passassin 72 over the course of the race, over the course of the season, I feel, as a potential breakout driver. And look at that, already with a 111.649 as the fastest lap in qualifying so far.
Yep, a very young driver with a lot of talent and chance for growth ahead of him. So it's just early doors for him as a league driver and just as a driver in general. So this is a name that could stick around for a while and improve to a higher tier eventually as his skills progress.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Now, I'm riding with Irish Potato right now, who looks to be just about finishing a flying lap and has a little bit of a little bit of wheel spin on the exit, but it doesn't look like that affected him too much, as he still sets a 112.435, which is good enough for second place. Now, I haven't been able to keep an eye out on what's going on in the stream chat, so Sunik, do you know if we have any updates in terms of the weather forecast for the race?
The local Scottish weatherman in Jordan says that it's going to be a dry to wet race.
Oh,
so we're going to get interchangeable conditions. So these guys, do they want to try and start on pole running a wet setup right now? Because they know that at the end of the race as well, their speed will be there with that setup, or are they just looking for that quick first stint in the dry during the race?
Yeah, and of course it could affect as well what kind of setup you want to put on. Maybe that's what you were hinting at. But the way I'm looking at it is, if it's going to go from dry to wet with a wet qualifying, do you think we'll see some drivers maybe opting for a bit of a setup that favors more these wet weather conditions to try to get that advantage once the wet weather does kick in the race, assuming it does kick in the race?
Getting to see where Demorts places himself. It's going to be P8 for the Racing Point driver.
Yep, a 112.8, so
no.
Not a bad lap. No, what were you saying?
I was looking at the Williams. I got confused, thought it was a Mercedes, and I was like, Stewart's up into P5, but he was in the pit. I was just trying to ride along with him. I got confusion.
Yeah, well, speaking of the, you were speaking of the Williams, I'm actually riding with AJ Wuhan, who is back in that Williams seat, and it looks as though Nathan JB is going to be his teammate, and oh no, Vito has left the session.
Oh, well, I got it.
So not what you want to see at least early on in these early stages of qualifying. Drivers leaving the session, potential disconnects, as since it is an online game, it is sometimes prone to happen. And for those who have played the game, we're all too familiar with how these servers can be sometimes. But hopefully that's not going to be a reoccurring issue for Vito here today, or even for the entirety of Season 4, especially considering that when you do disconnect and you are stuck on an AI car, that car does not go nearly as fast as what these drivers can do when they are behind the wheel. And just as I was speaking with all of that, I'm taking a look at the rankings, and we have AJ Wuhan, who qualified a provisional P2 with nearly a 112 flat, and his teammate, who was not too far behind, Nathan JB, who I was talking about, qualifying in a provisional P3 with a 112.147. So it's looking as though these both Williams drivers are having some pace, at least early on in I guess Season 4. So definitely another team to keep an eye out for the constructors, and potentially to take the run to Vito for the Division 2 championship as well.
Assassin's on another hot lap, setting a purple sector 1.
Yep, and actually it looks like AJ just set a fastest lap. That's a 111.644.
5 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, so by 5 thousandths of a second, just eking out the time set by Assassin with the 111.649. As I'm riding with Jordan at the moment, and it looks like he is on a flying lap, and I believe he is our weatherman as well. So let's see. He can bring us the weather? Can he bring us a solid lap? We'll find out, as he's coming through the end of Sector 2 into Sector 3 right now. He's got about 2 corners to go. I didn't quite get to see the sector time, so I'm not too sure where he's standing in terms of everybody else. But oh no, he invalidates on the penultimate corner. As you do really need to watch out. You do want to cut the inside line there, but as you saw, you don't want to cut it too much, or else you will lose out on your lap just like that. And especially around those last 2 corners, it's very tough when you do invalidate, because it's tough to veer into the pits and get those new tires on, and there is even a chance, if you do it late enough, that you might lose out on the next lap as well. But ooh, I was just about to say, I'm riding with ODD Mats, who I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's a new driver here in Tier 2.
Nope, that's just Matt's from it's regular old Matt's,
Oh,
their
okay.
driver of the Red Bull last season. He's just switched his name up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the clarification. I just wanted to, I wasn't entirely sure, but now we know. So new name, new team for Mats. We'll see if that'll play out for him here in Season 4, and hopefully some solid results.
Yep, Assassin increased his time for
Yeah.
1:11.370.
Yep.
Seems like the track's getting a bit quicker, where the drivers are just getting more used to it.
Of course, with the track evolution, and as we tend to see with these wet weather conditions, once the racing line does get formed a little bit, it does make things a little bit easier. I was riding with Cohen, who was on a lap, I believe, but had a bit of a moment on the exit of turn 3, and very promptly abandoned that lap, as we saw, letting the quicker driver through. I believe that was potentially his teammate. No, it was one of the Ferrari cars that was that he let through, either Lorenzo or Mark. But speaking of Lorenzo, let's jump to him and see what he's going to do as he's coming across the final corner. Is he going to improve on his lap? It is just a little bit slower, but maybe that was just a warm-up lap for him before he goes out and sets the real thing. I do notice those intermediate tires, you do need maybe a few more laps just to break them in and get them to that optimal tire temperature to get the maximum amount of grip, especially in these wet weather conditions we're seeing here.
Yep, we saw some of the drivers set their better time on their second run around, so...
Yeah, so we'll see if Lorenzo is going to be that case. He is using a lot of ERS, as I've noticed. It's been on 2 through the entire lap, so it is indicating to me it's going to be a good lap. Oh, did you see something?
He's just caught a bit of grass, trying to come out wide to prepare for turn 5. And he's 7/10 down on his time, so... yeah, he's abandoned the lap.
Yep, we can see that now. So let's promptly jump over to here. Let's actually ride with the... oh, well... bit of a commentator's curse here, as I was just about to ride with Synchro, but as I was saying earlier, takes a bit of a wide exit through the last corner, and you really don't want to be doing that, especially around this track, because as you can see, that invalidates your the lap you were just on, but it also invalidates the lap you are planning on starting. So unfortunately for Synchro, he's got another basically dead lap that he's going to have to do. And he's going to have to decide whether or not he wants to put a fresh set of boots on and try again, or if he's just going to stick with the tires he has now and maybe set another lap and try to improve on the time he has right now.
Yeah, Vito out setting a lap finally.
So let's actually ride with Vito. In that Red Bull car, coming around turn 4, I believe it is. Looks like he takes it fairly nicely from the angle we have here, but only in 16th, which, I mean, I guess is standard showing for a Vito qualifying. But I'm sure with the heightened competition we have here for Season 4 in Division 2, probably the closest competition we will have thus far in ISRL as far as all the seasons are concerned. He's probably going to want to have a good qualifying showing and not have to make as many overtakes out on track. Runs out of ERS right at the end of the lap, but it's still good enough for a provisional P9 with a 1:12.411. So not a bad time from Vito to kick things off. But when I'm looking at the pace of some of the top drivers like Faxland, AJ, Passassin, Nathan, looks as though he might want to potentially see if he can find a few more tenths of a second, or else he might be in trouble here in this first race of the season.
Yep, right now Nathan JB half a tenth up on his time, and as you can see how close it is at the top, half a tenth is from 4th to 3rd, so it's really pushing. A little bit of traffic though.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's affected him too much. A lot of the drivers doing a good job of getting out of the way, which you love to see. But let's take a look as he comes to the end of Sector 2. A little bit of a tank slapper, it looked like, on the exit of Turn 6, I believe. Yep, 2/10 up on his time, so it's looking to be a pretty solid lap for him. But this is really a make-or-break section of the circuit, I feel, more than a lot of drivers like to lead on. It's very easy to go wide. Thankfully for Nathan, he does not go wide, and there we go. Promotes himself up into P3 with a 111.654. So with about 3 minutes to go in qualifying, it's looking like a very strong showing for both Williams drivers, as they're currently sitting P2, P3, and we'll see actually if AJ is going to improve on his time, or if he's just going to be starting a flying lap now. So went slower, but potentially looking to start a lap now, as I do see he's bumped up that ERS. So we'll have to keep an eye out for him a little bit later on. But I want to jump to, let's see, who else is on a flying lap
right now is about to complete one. It's had a purple sector too, but I'm not sure if it's the game glitch we normally get, but we'll see here. Yo, that's 3/10.
Yeah, so a good lap.
Assassin sees that he's out on track already, trying to protect P1.
Yep, and another driver who set a really good lap, just as we were talking about him earlier, Demort's in that Racing Point car. Sets a 112.2, which is good enough for P9 at the moment here, with about 2 minutes to go in qualifying. But
he's going again too.
Yeah, it looks like he is going again, but after being promoted from Division 3 up to Division 2, based on these lap times, it doesn't look like it's phasing him one bit, as he's still competing with the pack here in these intermediate tire conditions nonetheless. So definitely keep an eye out on Demorts. We know he's got the pace, and I'm sure he'll have a strong showing here, especially once we can get those dries on. And actually, it's looking like a purple second sector, so potentially even quicker for Demorts as he's going around another lap.
Assassin bested his own sector one time by 1/1000th of a second.
Oh my, so nearly an identical sector, but just a tiny little bit faster. Krishna's out of qualifying as he retires. And there we go, Demorts from 7/100ths better than his previous time, up to 8th now. But let's quickly jump to Assassin. As you were saying, it looks like he is on a quick... Oh no, he is went slower in the second sector.
Yeah.
So maybe going to be... It looks like he has abandoned the lap. Now, is he going to be going into the pits? No, he's going to be going around maybe for one more time. So let's actually ride on board with Assassin, as I believe this is going to be his last lap of the session. And I'm seeing Irish Newt Potato. We haven't spoken about him all that much here, at least in this qualifying session, but 111.6 up to P3 now.
A 111.6 for Dark, up to P5. We see these gaps starting to close again, as we had mentioned at the beginning of qualifying, how closely it is. So,
a little bit of a tank slapper for Assassin on the exit of turn 3. Very easy to do in the dries, even more so in the wets. But that might be all she wrote for Assassin's lap time here, right at the end of the session. But he's still using some of the ERS, so we'll just take a look as he comes through the end of the second sector. If he's still quicker, he is still quicker. Still up on his time by only 6,000. So let's actually stay with him, as we're seeing more and more drivers finishing their qualifying. Faxland is done. Synchro's done. Mats is done. Demort's finished his lap time. What's Assassin going to do as he's coming across the final corner? Is he going to be faster? He is going to be faster. That's a 111.331. But now let's switch to AJ Wuhan, as he's currently in second. Coming to the end of Sector 2, is he going to be going faster? He's a 10th faster on his time, but maybe not quick enough to beat Assassin for pole. But we'll have to see if he can make up a bit more, a few more tenths of a second on this last sector. 2 corners to go, 1 corner to go now. Pops open the ERS. Is it going to be faster? Yes, it is faster with a 111.178. So what a monster time by AJ Wuhan for taking pole position away from Assassin right at the end of the session. And just like that, that's all she wrote for qualifying. That, I'll be honest, feels like it just completely flew by. But there we go. AJ Wuhan starting on pole for the inaugural race of Season 4. Solid lap with a 111.178. Passassin starting on the front row alongside of only a tenth and a half seconds behind AJ. Newt Potato on starting on third with Faxland coming in fourth. Dark rounds out the top 5. Nathan JB in sixth. Leparkta in seventh. Synchro in eighth. Krishna in ninth. And Mark rounds out the top 10. Matt's going to be in 11th, D-Mort's in 12th, Jordan in 13th, Real DC in 14th, Cruz in 15th, Vito only in 16th place for qualifying, so going to have a lot of work to do, Stewart in 17th, and as I ran out of time, I didn't quite get to see 18 to 20, but we'll be able to confirm that in just a few moments as we're getting ready for the formation lap. So, just from what I'm seeing initially with the qualifying, lots of work for Vito here in this race, as only qualified in 16th place.
That's unfortunate. Cohen on the stream saying he invalidated 3 of his laps. Those 3
Oh,
of his runs,
no.
he wasn't able to set a time. So we're going to have to see him start from the rear of the field. Did a lot of work ahead of him here.
Yep, definitely gonna have a lot of work. But if Season 3 is anything to show, this is maybe just par for the course for Vito. Because we saw it so often in Season 3 that he qualified middle of the pack, back of the field, and still was able to find a way to make it all the way up to the front of the grid and eke out some victories or some podiums. But of course, as we saw with qualifying pace, he's going to have his work cut out for him. As we saw, Assassin has the pace, Nathan has the pace, AJ Wuhan has the pace, even Faxman showing he has the pace as well. Lots of drivers that are showing they can compete and are going to have a lot of pace here at this around the circuit here in Austria. But with about 5 seconds, all the questions we're asking here in the commentator's booth, and those of you watching at home maybe are asking too, are going to be sorted.
Absolutely.
Oh, there we go.
Seen seasons past. This should be a good race. Full grid. So.
Yep, and crucially, as I just noticed this now, free choice of tires for everybody on the grid since it was a wet weather qualifying. So let's actually put on this the tire choice. So as I said, AJ Wuhan starting on pole, Assassin in second, and Newt Potato rounds out the top 3, all on medium tires. Faxland in fourth, opting for the soft tires, so expect him to be a little bit more punchy for the start of the race. Dark in fifth, Nathan JB in sixth, and oh my goodness, there was a Haas that went off. I think that was Leparkta having a moment warming up his tires. He will be starting in seventh nonetheless, with the Synchro qualifying in eighth. And from Dark to Synchro, all on the medium tires. Krishna in ninth, opting for the soft tires, with V-Mark rounding up the top 10 on the medium tires as well. Matt's in the brand new McLaren car, putting the soft tires on with D-Mort's, Jordan, Real DC, and Cruz all opting for the medium tires as well to start off. Vito, as we were talking about, in 16th, put on those soft tires, so expect him to be punchy from the start, as we are getting that predicted pit stop strategy, soft to mediums if you are starting on the softs. With Stewart in 17th, Michael Fury Israel Biku, as we'll call him here as well, on the medium tires as well, with Lorenzo putting the medium tires. Cohen rounding off the grid on those soft tires, but of course with nothing to lose, expect that punchy start and expect maybe a few moves early on from Cohen. With a lot of these drivers, or expect a lot of moves from maybe all of the soft tire runners, given that there's so many drivers on those medium tires.
Well, a thing to remember here, we're going to transition to a rain session at the end of this race, so the soft tires doesn't seem like it would have been the right thing to do. As Rotation says in the chat, maybe start with the hard, but maybe these drivers, some of these guys saw that we're going to get rain. about halfway through, and the mediums will take you there, absolutely. So.
Oh yeah, and especially depending on your tire wear as well, that could play an effect too. But we're going for the lights. We've got 3, 4, 5 red lights, and they're off. And we are off here for the first race of the season. It's looking like a good start from, looks like that's Krishna. I believe that's Passassin jumping to an early lead here in the race with a nice start and a nice overtake around turn 1. It looks like everyone's got through relatively cleanly here. As everybody's spacing out for turn 2 and turn 3. We've got a little bit of side-by-side battle, as I'm just going to go down the order here and see what's happening. Dark and, it looks like Dark and Mark going side-by-side with Synchro there close as well. No, that's, yeah, Synchro, Mark, and, oh my goodness, I'm losing track of the names here. I'm going to have to learn them. But Cruz going alongside of Mark, and it looks like Cruz is going to make that overtake. I'm seeing Krishna battling it out with Nude Potato very early on. So Nude Potato falling down the order down to 5th after qualifying in 3rd. So as I said, a lot of these soft tire runners really getting a punchy jump early on. And what happened to Mark as I'm seeing him fall down the order? We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2 and 3, and that's the real DC as well, having a moment. And I believe now he's back on track.
Might have had some help there.
Yeah, potentially, but what a start from Passassin, as it looks like he is taking the lead of the race, as the timing table is going absolutely a little bit funky, it seems, showing Passassin in 7th, even though he is well in the lead, with Faxland in 2nd from what I'm noticing. So solid start from Faxland, and it looks like those soft tires have worked out for him and paid off very well. Now, why is... Okay, I wanted the position change, so that didn't quite work out. So, yeah, so AJ Wuhan, not the best start, losing, I believe it is 2 positions from the start. But Krishna, amazing start from him all the way up into, well, what is a net 4th once everything sorts itself out. And Cruz, I just noticed, up 6 positions, up to 7th, I believe it's going to be. I just waiting, and there we go. It looks like everything did sort out. So it is Passassin leading the way with Faxland trying to close the gap, but gonna have to watch out because AJ is, well, actually AJ has grown the gap a little bit, but gonna have to watch out for Krishna, who's looking like he's really got some pace here early on with those soft tires and might look to make a lunge to overtake AJ Wuhan here in these early stages of the race. But as I'm caught here talking about the lead, what are you seeing elsewhere on the circuit?
Everything is everywhere. All these drivers within a second of each other. Huge DRS change. We saw on lap 1. We had. Ooh, what's going on?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, Mats went a little bit wide on the exit of turn 3, which was the only invitation Dark needed. Now it looks like we're gonna have a nice little 3-4 car battle. Huge lockups going into turn 4, but it looks like it is still Synchro for Dark to Mats. And oh, what was that behind? Are we seeing 2 wide, 3 wide nearly between Demorts, Vito, and Laparta as Vito trying to work his way up the grid with those soft tires, but doesn't look like he's having it very easy for him with this battle between himself and Demorts. And I just noticed Laparta fell down 6 positions early on, so not the start he was hoping for.
He did not get going off the line. It was almost like the Haas wasn't ready for it. You saw him get disqualified on the formation lap, and he was not ready for the lights out. It's almost like he didn't get going.
Nope, so not in the, not necessarily maybe in the mindset he was hoping for. And I just noticed on the timing board, Krishna just overtook AJ Wuhan to go up into 3rd in the race so far. So up 6 positions. But oh my goodness, Matt's going wide once again on turn 3. And now we're seeing Mats and Dark going side by side, and it looks like as though with Dark taking the inside line, oh, they got very close, a lockup by Mats there, and they're still side by. Oh no, but Dark went into the grass a little bit, and that's all Mats needed just to get the better traction and keep that P9. But if Mats wants any chance of keeping that P9 for longer than a lap, he's gonna have to sort out that issue with going deep, because now that's 2 laps in a row I see him going very deep into turn 3, and you're going to lose a lot of time if you keep doing that. This
battle's all over the circuit right now. The sides, most importantly, at the front. Assassin's keeping Faxlin at bay, and I think ultimately Assassin on the better tire strategy. You see AJ Wuhan going from first in the opening laps all the way down to fourth, being put under pressure from his teammates. So, not the start he was looking for.
No, definitely not. But it looks as though we were talking about the tire strategy, at least early on. A lot of drivers, well, seems like people watching at home and us as well, thinking the soft tires may have not been the best choice. But here, let me quickly jump to the tire choice people have on, if I can pick the right option, of course. Look at that. We've got Faxlin and Krishna with the soft tires up to P2 and P3 early on. So it looks as though it has worked out for them. For both of them, so as long as they can build that gap. But it looks as though, at least now on lap 5, looks as though the likes of AJ, Nathan JB, and Irish Potato, who fell down the order early on, I think they're now starting to get the temperature in the tires. They're starting to feel the grip, and are going to be able to make a push to take those positions back from the likes of Faxland and Krishna. But we'll have to keep an eye out on that. But it's still Assassin leading the way on those medium tires, with Faxland in second on the softs, but really hasn't been able to make much of a move. And Mats just worked his way up to 8th, overtaking Synchro. Looked to be with the help of DRS, as we're seeing down the start. Oh my goodness, what happened there? Demorts, Laparkta, and Vito battling it out, and through all of that, Vito, I think, overtook 2 cars, as it looked as though Demorts and Laparkta both went wide, and Vito just said, thank you very much, I'll take that P11 and continue on my way.
You got the front group being led by Krishna right now.
Cruz and Irish Potato nearly going side by side. Just have to bring that up. It looks like New Potato is getting the better of Cruz for now. But I'm going to have to keep an eye out on that battle, as I think it might be only a matter of time before Cruz gets that overtake done.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with right now. We have so many different groups battling it out. Good for the viewers at home, I can say that.
Oh yeah, and this is what we want to see here for Division 2 and pretty much all the division battles everywhere on track. And even even for, well, what I like to call the wooden spoon, we're still seeing the drivers like Michael Fures, Lorenzo, Cohen, still staying very close. Stewart and Jordan battling it out, as we got a nice little helicopter view there. Jordan looks like he's getting some nice traction as he's going to try down the inside of Stewart. This is going to be very close going into turn 4, as they're side by side now. But once again, it looks as though Stewart is just able to keep that P14 from Jordan. And yep, they're going to be settling single file here through this next portion of the track, which isn't really known for overtakes. So let's actually jump a little bit further up to Vito, as he's looking to close back up to Laparkta. And I think Laparkta did re-overtake Vito on circuit, as Vito was in 11th, back down to 12th. But for how long, as now he's got Demorts pressuring, and it looks like Stewart now getting involved with that battle as well. But Dark closing up on Synchro 2, just a little bit further up down the road.
Pass for P3 right now as
yep,
AJ Wuhan's underneath him.
Yeah, just noticed that. Krishna and AJ going side by side, and is Nathan going to get involved with that as well? Are we going to see both Williams and the Renault get involved with one another? We're going to have to be careful. You don't want to take each other out, especially if you're teammates. But this could potentially work to their advantage with a double overtake. But it looks as though Krishna doing a good job, still working those soft tires to the edge of the grip, and holding on to that third position here. But equally, it's letting the likes of Assassin and Faxland grow that much more of a gap. And as we're seeing very early on in this race, the penalties are starting to fall, as it looks as though at least half the grid are do have some penalties, I should say. But now, oh, look at the pace AJ had with the help of DRS. And it looks like he makes the overtake look fairly simple going into turn 1. But now Krishna has DRS, back on AJ. So he's going to make a lunge down the inside. Thought about it, but will not this lap, but might consider down this straight here if he can close the gap enough. But he's going to have to watch out for Nathan, who's right behind, just waiting for something to happen and waiting for his opportunity to overtake Krishna as well. So Lots of awareness for Creation as he's stuck in this Williams sandwich here in P4.
That's going to help Cruz gain onto the back of these guys too, and that's going to also bring New Potato, but Matt's just too far back from that group. But now we're going to have everybody here battling for the final podium spot.
Yep, and I do want to talk about it. We are only on lap 10, so 26 laps to go in this race. And already from the sunny start of the race we had, I'm starting to see some cloud cover roll in. So, will we be seeing the potential of rain sooner rather than later? Or is this just going to be a lingering cloud cover that's just going to hang out and nothing's going to happen? We'll find out here soon enough. At least for those watching at home.
The soft runners are going to absolutely want it to rain right now because these softs are nearing the end of their life. Granted, they were thicker tires in the sense that no laps per turn on them because, again, qualifying was wet. But 12 laps is pretty much pushing it to the edge on these softs.
Definitely. I know generally speaking, I think the softs really only lasted 10 laps from the start of the race, but that does include at least one qualifying lap and, well, I guess a warm-up and cool-down lap in qualifying for the most part. So I'm going to have to agree with you that maybe 12 laps could be about as long as those soft tires are going to go until we start really seeing a drop-off of pace. And I think maybe it's already happened. Well, actually, no. It looks as though, at least for Faxland, he's been able to keep pace in terms of where he is compared to AJ Wuhan. But crucially, it looks as though Passassin is growing that gap. It's now up to 4 seconds. So Passassin really pretty comfortable out in the lead so far in these early stages. But I want to quickly jump to Jordan as he's getting very close to Laparkta for this battle for P12, both on the medium tires. And I just noticed Michael Fures Elbiku setting a fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But look at this, Jordan and Laparkta going side by side. They touch tires. Who's going to get the better of who as they're coming up to this section? It looks as though Jordan is going to make that overtake stick. And what happened to Irish Potato? As he just went for a bit of an off-road ride, it looks like, and he's going to be losing out on some positions. Oh, and look at that!
It's now raining. Yes.
Yep. Thank you for the call out, Asunik. It is raining, as we're seeing Nude Potato struggling even more so now, getting the dirt off the tires, falling down. But you can see on your screen for those watching at home, the rain is falling, and it looks as though it's not going to be as gradual as we've come to know and see in the past. It might be a bit more drastic here, just from what I can gauge based on the rain on screen. But actually, no, maybe riding with dark, it's not as bad as it was when I was with Nude Potato. But it's still looking as though we might be seeing some spray on the tires sooner rather than later.
And look for mistakes to happen here.
Oh, yeah.
You're nearly driving on eggshells, but you gotta keep your minimum speeds up so that way you're not losing as much time as possible, but the car's gonna feel like it's on rails.
Yep, and especially even more so if you are running the soft tires, because now the rain has kicked in, but now if you opted for if you're on the medium tires, you're probably feeling relatively okay. As Vito and Nude Potato goes into the pits, so that's why Vito does get that overtake. But as I was saying, if you're on the medium tires, you're probably okay. But if you're on the soft tires, you don't want to go pit for another set of dry tires, knowing the rain is so close. So it's gonna make things even more difficult in terms of trying to extend those tires as long as possible up until a changeover. But speaking of Nude Potato, the first driver to opt to put on the intermediate tires, and Elbiku or Michael Fures following suit, down in 18th and 19th, nothing really to lose with that early strategy call. But now it's more of a matter of if it's going to pay out for them. But when I'm jumping with the onboard, I'm still not seeing enough spray coming off of those tires to warrant the choice. But actually, Look at this. Passassin, Faxland, AJ Wuhan, and Krishna all going into the pits. So we might see them opting for the intermediate tires. So maybe conditions on track are worse than what it's letting on here on stream. But Nathan, JB, and Cruz have stayed out. And so did Mats on those soft tires opted to stay out as well.
And Nathan, JB, and AJ Wuhan were so close together on track that they didn't want to double stack. So one got to go while the other had to stay out.
Oh, so maybe
hurt Nathan, JB in the long run.
Oh yeah, no, it might actually, because it looks as though I thought it was a little bit early, but I feel as though based on what I'm seeing in terms of the pit stops, I think this was the time to put on the intermediate tires, or potentially. Let's actually check with Passassin. Oh my goodness, overtaking Dark like it's nothing on circuit with those intermediate tires.
Yeah,
But let's see. Oh, look
Nathan
at that.
are skating right now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so definitely, I guess it was the changeover for the intermediate tires. So shows what I know here in the commentator's booth, where it's nice and warm and dry, and well, not wet. But look at Passassin, look at the pace he's got, and look at this gap closing the Cruz very quickly, from what it seems. So it looks as though maybe Cruz and Nathan opting to pit a lap too late. Nathan, I understand with the double stack, but I'm not too sure about Cruz.
Yeah, to compound his troubles for staying out, he's gotten a 5-second penalty, it said, for speeding.
Oh no, so from bad to worse as he as he does take the penalty. Lots of overtakes happening, but it seems as though it is mostly in the sake of the pit lane, so I'm going to let all of that sort out. But look at this. We've got Cruz and Nathan JB very close to one another. Cruz trying to make a lunge down the inside. Is it going to work? It goes a little bit deep, but I think he just closes the door on Nathan, actually, and takes that P5 away from Nathan JB, and Nathan is going to fall down to 6th place. Now, crucially, I am seeing no DRS is opening, so I completely missed it with the announcements, but I do think DRS did get disabled at some point over the course of the last few laps.
Yeah, we see Jordan jumped his teammate in the cycle of stops.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Jordan up to 10th, Irish New Potato down to 13th. I know he did have a little bit of a moment right around the changeover period, which might have been the cause, for that switch in positions. But I mean, it's only lap 16. There's still 20 laps to go here in the race, so loads of time to work your way back up, especially if you're comfortable here around the circuit with these intermediate tires. As some of these drivers I know are a little bit more comfortable with the wet weather conditions than others, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But now, looking at AJ, and well, just speaking of the comfort, it looks as though AJ Wuhan is much more comfortable than Faxland is with these wet weather conditions, as the gap is down to less than half a second now, and crucially, the gap between Passassin and Faxland for the lead is up to nearly 9 seconds. But hang on, Cruz and Nathan going side by side, and they're still side by side for at least 2 turns now. What a sight to see! But who's gonna take the position? Is it gonna be Nathan? It looks like it is gonna be Nathan as he gets the inside line. And yes, Cruz just backs out, opting not to do another set of corners side by side, especially not these last 2 corners where you don't really see it happen all that much. But will he be able to close the gap and make that overtake back on Nathan, or is he gonna settle for 6th for the time being?
Faxland just let AJ through.
Huh. I just switched over that to the end, and I thought it just looked as though AJ made the overtake, but I'll take your word for it. I think Faxland may be noticing that he doesn't have the pace on these intermediate tires compared to AJ, and choosing maybe instead of battling for position, just let him through, try to keep up with them, so that way I'm not potentially losing out on even more positions with the likes of Krishna and Nathan JB. not too far behind and potentially looking to close up those gaps as well. I saw a yellow flag on the circuit somewhere. I don't think it's...
Looking. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's anything too crazy. Maybe just a driver having a moment. But it looks as though we are continuing on racing. But I am keeping an eye out on this nice little 3-car battle we have between Cruz, Synchro, and well, Nathan JB is a little bit further ahead. So maybe now the battle's more between Cruz and Synchro as Cruz is trying to fend off that P6. So after battling it out with Nathan, now he's going to have to go on the defensive to not lose out on the 6th position to Synchro, who's looking very hungry to want to overtake. And thought about making a lunge down the inside, but thought better of it considering he was a little bit too far back. But if I'm going to ride with Synchro, nope, doesn't get the... I don't think he got the exit he was hoping for out of that corner, and falls back just a little bit too far back, so he's going to have to deal with that Mercedes driver in front of him for at least one more lap.
Gaps are starting to form up a bit. Got another 3-car battle with Laparta, Vito, and Irish New Potatoes all over the back of him.
Yeah, so Vito not feeling all that comfortable on these intermediate tires. It looks like as you were saying, Irish New Potato. Ooh! Oh no! Right as I quickly switch over to him, caught that. Sorry, Irish New Potato. We caught that on stream. Does a nice little 360 donut on track. Gets back on the circuit, but
he salvaged his car.
Oh, and crucially, Synchro having a moment as well on the exit of the final corner, and he lost out in a few positions too. He's going back. He's continuing back on track now, but losing out to the likes of Vito and Laparta. So Vito and Laparta both getting a nice free position out of that, as Vito is continuing his journey up the grid, starting from 16th up to 11th now, and keeping up with Laparta very nicely, but just can't seem to get the overtake done as he was probably hoping for maybe a few laps earlier.
Yeah, things just changed on a dime right there. Synchro was up there battling for it. Now he's been relegated to... Well, he'd be out of normal points, but luckily still in the points. And Irish New Potato, I want to say, very, very lucky. He impacted the wall with the rear of the car, where you don't see much damage unless you're losing a wheel. So he escaped. It's not like he had to pit. He could just get out and just settle back down and try and get what he can get. He's almost to Albiku now for the final point fame spot. So
yeah, and crucially, Synchro going very slowly on circuit. And we'll see Albiku make a quick overtake. Now I feel as though Synchro is probably going to be going into the... Oh my goodness! Oh. Going very slow, and that's contact between Irish New Potato and Synchro, as New Potato very swiftly through the contact dives into the pits, cutting it a little bit, and Synchro now going into the pits. Now I think this was one of those cases where Synchro wanted to go into the pits, but was still trying to take the line through the last second, and Irish Potato, as he was just trying to take the racing line, I feel, ended up seeing that the Racing Point car just right ahead didn't quite get to react, and unfortunately for Irish Potato, I think that was all she wrote and all he could handle, as he retires in the pit lane. We can see that he leaves the session here on lap 21, and will be getting an early start to the weekend next week, but not the showing we were expecting from Irish New Potato, especially considering we know he can compete with the likes of those at the top, and Demorts as well, retiring from the session. So now, just like that, we've got two drivers retiring in the pit lanes, not happy with their race weekends, and will not be taking any points here in this opening race of Season 4.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Irish New Potato, as Synchro is in the wrong there. If you're intending, we made it Jordan himself, their tier manager, made it a statement earlier that if you're going to pit, to hug the inside line to allow drivers to get through, and he
Yeah,
came out wide and tried to get back in.
yeah, and for
So
those watching at home who might not be too sure what we're talking about, you can see that the racing line cuts right into that white line to go into the pits. So the idea was that if you're going into the pits, stick right to let the driver behind you know that you are looking to go into the pits. It didn't look as though Synchro had done that. But then again, I'm just assuming he was going to go into the pits because I did see that end plate damage on his car. But I'm not too sure if he truly was or not, or was opting to continue onwards. But that's the general gist of the rule for those watching at home who may not have been overly familiar with that. As, oh, Passassin takes a 3-second time penalty. But looking at the gap, it might not matter all that much, as Passassin is very comfortably in the lead of the race now. But crucially, we've got Krishna trying to close the gap on Faxland. So Faxland, after letting AJ Wuhan by, seems as though he's now continuing on his race. Maybe he's starting to feel a bit more pace on those intermediate tires. Maybe it just took him a little bit longer to get the temperature in them, to get the grip. But now we can see he is at least keeping up and doing a good job of keeping Krishna behind. But I think Krishna now is starting to push, as the gap is right around 0.8 of a second.
Faxland will have a penalty advantage over the guys behind him. So if he just holds these guys off, he's still, even if you say Krishna gets by and he stays with Krishna for the remaining laps, he's still on for podium, as Krishna has 6 seconds, Nathan JB with 8, and Dark behind him with 6, so he's in good shape to still finish on the podium.
Oh yeah, so for Faxland, I think it's more a matter of just keeping a clean race, keep doing what you're doing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And he's looking to be in for a pretty solid showing, well, assuming that he's able to keep up the way he's been driving thus far. Now Vito still trying to close up on Laparta, but with no DRS, and of course Austria being one of those circuits where it's very tough to keep behind the cars ahead with all that dirty air, even more so with these temperatures where you've really just got the racing line, and when you do veer off the racing line, it does get very slippery out on track. As with this onboard that we have with Vito, you can see how treacherous these conditions are looking. But Vito playing it patient, maybe hoping for a mistake from the driver ahead in Laparta, but maybe also seeing, as from what we can see here on this stream, that Laparta does have a penalty. So maybe just looking to keep up and get that overtake done more for the sake of penalties. But I would think that Vito would want to get the overtake done to try to close up even more positions than only settling for that P10 by the end of the race.
Riding on Vito's onboard, I'm not sure if it's because of, yeah, I went to Faxland losing clean air. It's raining a bit harder than before. It's picked up a notch in intensity, so do we see full wets? Not seeing much on the spray end. It just appears that it's picked up.
Yeah, I haven't gone and really considered much the option of pitting for the full wets, but now that you bring it up, we've got
drenched.
12 laps to go, and yeah, we'll jump at the onboard. And even, I mean, even without the spray of Laparta, given the distance, it looks as sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself because I just noticed Cohen, well, he retired in the pit lane, so another driver not having the race weekend they were hoping for, and I guess Cohen as well will be getting an early start to next weekend. After this an unfortunate showing here around the circuit in Austria. But just to go back, yeah, it really looks as though the rain is coming down much harder, and now we can truly see with that onboard, the spray that Laparta is spitting out to Vito, especially when he gets very close in the corners like this. Doesn't look like they're great conditions to drive in. But we'll see who's going to be the first to fall and maybe take that gamble on the wet weather tires. But from what I'm seeing, it looks as though we still have a racing line without any standing water. It's really just if you're going to veer off the racing line that maybe you're going to be running into a bit more of that standing water that's more comfortable for the full wet tires rather than the intermediate tires.
On AJ Wuhan getting a penalty too, so Vaxland looking, I mean, the gap's only 1.2. So
Yeah, so 1.2 now between AJ and Faxland. So maybe Faxland's starting to find a bit of pace on these intermediate tires. But I'm happy I stuck with this battle between Vito and Laparta, because now Vito has closed the gap down to, well, it was 3/10. Now it's showing about, well, right around 3.5 tenths. But are we going to see an overtake from Vito on Laparta within the next few laps? As he's just been getting closer and closer, and I think it might only be a matter of time now, as I think Laparta is now starting to struggle, and Vito's starting to feel that pace. He's thinking about maybe something down the inside, but thought a little bit better of it going into turn 3, as it's a little bit more of a sketchy overtake in these types of conditions.
From a driver's perspective, getting an overtake done in these conditions on this track it's hard.
Yeah.
You have to pick it perfect, or sometimes both cars can end up damaged or spun around. So,
well, that's the thing, and I mean, normally you're kind of hoping for drivers to make a mistake, but of course when you've got drivers at this skill level, you can't be banking on a mistake, because if you are, you're going to be hoping potentially for a long time for maybe a mistake that's never going to happen. So maybe you do need to get a little bit more bold, a little bit more daring, and try that lunge if you want to get the overtake. I mean, of course there is that line between being bold and just being downright stupid, but
there is, yeah.
A lot
it's
of
also
most
race 1.
Oh
16 15 to go after today. So, and knowing Vito's consistency level, he's not one to risk a guaranteed result for one more spot. He knows what he has to do.
Oh, exactly, and he's still thinking about making that lunge down the inside, but just can't close up enough of the gap to feel comfortable to make that move into turn 3. And to be honest, I don't blame Vito, because I know turn 3 is probably one of the hardest turns in this entire circuit to take, in my opinion. And it's because it's so easy to go wide. It's so easy to just put a little bit too much gas on the exit. And if you're stuck going side by side, especially in these conditions, and you're not on that racing line, those worrisome thoughts from that turn 3 just eke a little bit more in the back of your head.
Yeah, the best thing Vito could do right now, honestly, is just keep the pressure on the back of Laparta. Wait for Laparta to make that crucial mistake. Just one error, it's all you need. He needs a little bit of wheel spin out of an exit, just not entering a corner well, and a guy like Vito's going to just nip at that. He's going to go right for that advantage, and move will be done, and he would have risked nothing. So.
Oh yeah, so Vito is doing a good job of staying patient, but now I feel like I've been watching this battle for God knows how many laps, just hoping for something to happen. But it is one of the closest gaps, and Vito taking that similar line, making that peak down the inside, maybe making Laparta think he's going to go for a move, and maybe grip the steering wheel a little bit tighter, hope to force a mistake, rather than just banking on a mistake to happen, as we know some skilled drivers are good at doing that. Oh, actually, hang on, AJ and Faxland... No, it's AJ and Krishna going into the pits. So here on lap 29 out of 36, are we going to see full wets for the end of the race?
Yep. No.
No, another set of intermediates.
I got confused because the Williams pit crew looks like a full wet tire.
Yeah, so it looks like they are choosing just to put on another set of intermediate tires. Maybe not feeling the wear. And oh, look at Mats making a lunge down the inside. Or thought about it at the very least. It looked like he was making a lunge from the other camera angle I had. But nope, is still staying in P5. Cruz still in 4th, so maybe a good defending job from Cruz there. As they're just going to continue on. But the gap down to about 0.4 of a second now. So similar to Vito and Laparta, we might be seeing moves here on on circuits, as it seems as though for the longest part with this weather, it's been very single file, save for any mistakes.
Yeah, now what does the leader do? He stayed out for another lap. Some people not taking care of the inters as well as the others.
Yeah, but I feel as though if you're Passassin in the lead, you've got an 18-second gap to the driver in second. So realistically, you've really built up that gap, so you might not really even need to pit up unless you start really seeing that gap fall. But from what I'm noticing, it looks as though the gap is still growing between Passassin and Faxland. Up to 18.5. And now, on board with Matt, it's going to try down the outside as Cruz defends down the inside. But no, once again, with these wet weather, with these intermediate conditions, just not enough grip to make a lunge down the outside. But look at the exit Matt's had compared to Cruz. I think Cruz struggled with a little bit of a tank slapper. Matt's being forced to the outside, just barely being left enough room. And they're side by side now, as who's going to get the move? It looks as though Cruz is going to be keeping that fourth position for at least one more lap here on lap 31. But that was a bit of a nice, well, I guess I could say a nice defending move by Cruz. Maybe a little bit borderline, just leaving Matt's just enough room on circuit to get the overtake done. But I'm sure Matt's maybe not too happy with that defense move on from his end of the circuit, feeling he should have had the a bit more space on track.
Yeah, that lead that Assassin's growing about half a second a lap. So
yeah, so if I'm Assassin, honestly, I'm just staying out. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And well, let's quickly hang on. Matt's trying down the inside now of Cruz. Third time's a charm. Yep, third time's a charm for Matt as he but actually goes a little bit deep. Gets a bit of a tank slapper, and Cruz gets the better exit. No, third time is not the charm for Matt, as Cruz still, after all of that, sees that P4 on his steering wheel, and it can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief as that got actually very close. Or closest that we've seen compared to all the other laps thus far. But we're on lap 32 out of 36, so maybe 3.5 laps to go if my math is serving me right. So it is really much crunch time now, as the real that's just Stewart going into the pits, putting a fresh set of tires on. But now I'm looking, it looks as though Mark is caught up with Vito and Laparta.
Thinker is not allowing Faxland any room.
Well, let's take a look here. Yeah, it looks as though, I mean, it is blue flag conditions, and if I recall correctly, we do have a rule in terms of the blue flag conditions, where as much as there is the ghosted car, you do want to let the lead lap car through to not create any further incidents on track. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. If it's just a matter of bad timing, or if there really is no not being let through, because that could mean Faxland losing a lot of time to Nathan JB, who's only a 1.5 seconds behind.
Yeah, Synchro drove right through him into turn 1. But he's got to drive right through him again.
Well, here, let's jump to Faxland. Yeah, definitely not what you want to see. As we'll go back to the onboard now, as it looks as though, for those watching, it looks as though it's a battle on circuit, but nope, it's just blue flag conditions. You know, I guess Synchro feels as though maybe he's going a little bit, he's got a bit more pace, but still, you do want to let the lead lap drivers through, especially on blue flag conditions like that. But I'm looking at the screen now with 3 laps to go. I'm not going to make an argument about switching over to dry tires, but it looks as though the rain stopped here with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, out of nowhere, it just seems to let up. So Assassin might be struggling, but he's still pulling. It's almost a full pit stop ahead. Faxon now. Yeah,
but still some spray on the car. Now, with the onboard of Matt, gonna try down the inside outside. Oh, that was a little bit worrisome, as I'm seeing Mark putting on the soft tires, so going for an early pit stop, trying to say, ooh my, Matt's almost having a moment, and that might be all she wrote with that battle between him and Cruz, as now the gap's down to over a second. So let's quickly switch over to AJ, as AJ is trying to close up on oh my goodness, Dark, big words for me. Here on lap 34. But is he going to have enough time, as we're going to be kicking off, I believe it's lap 34 out of 36 now for most of these drivers on the lead lap. But, oh, actually, yeah, he is going to make that move relatively easily on Dark, as AJ up into 6th, Dark down into 7th. So it looks as though that pit stop for AJ is working out for him, as with the fresher set of tires, was able to just blow by Dark, who's now on 18 lap old intermediate tires. Oh, that's Jordan going into the pits, putting on a set of slick tires for the end of the race. Here, actually, Vito and Laparca still.
Albiku's struggling for grip.
Yeah, so maybe not the choice you wanted to do. But I mean, I guess with 2 laps to go, you're really not losing anything either way. But I mean, for Jordan and Mark, who put on those tires, they might lose out in a few positions here, just with the lack of grip, because it looks as though, as much as it's the racing line, I'm still seeing a lot of spray coming off of these tires. So I do think it is still intermediate tire conditions, and probably these type of conditions up until the end of the race. As it looks as though the real DC going slowly, letting some cars through, and Stewart retires from the session in the pits. So Stewart, another driver to take an early start to next weekend, retiring in the pits. So we're up to 4 drivers now who've opted not to finish the first race after maybe not having the first outing of the season they were hoping for. But here on lap 35, Max is closed right back up to Cruz, and I'm actually seeing the gap between Faxline and Nathan JB down to under a second now. So we might see something happen here before the end of the race, a little bit further up the road. But it might only be for on-track positions, as Faxline still has kept a very clean race compared to Nathan. Michael Fures retires from the session. And was that on track? Did
Yeah, he just pulled over.
Okay. Thankfully his car didn't the ghost car didn't continue on. But still, ideally, if you're gonna retire on track, unless you know similar, I guess, where, like Michael Fures did, unless you know where that is, it is advised to retire in the pit lanes to not cause any potential issues with the ghost car. But here on lap 36 out of 36, Matt's right up along back of Cruz,
Vito's
and now.
Got a puncture.
Oh, who got the puncture?
Vito's got a puncture.
Oh my goodness! Oh no! Going very slowly. Heartbreak for Vito on the final lap. As you said, he's got a puncture, having to go into the pits, and he's going to just lose out on so much time as Passassin crosses the line through all of that to take the victory here on the first race of Season 4 for Division 2, with a strong showing here with this first race. Now, let's take a look at Faxland. Very happy, crosses the line in P2, will keep P2 with Nathan getting the podium, but will he keep that podium, as Cruz is going to cross the line here very shortly. Cruz in 4th, falling down, and AJ actually takes P4. Dark in 5th, Cruz falls down to 6th, Krishna in 7th, Matt through all of that in 8th. So it looks as though victory to Cruz in that battle between Cruz and Mats after the penalties. And Laparca in 9th, as we're just waiting for him to cross the line. And I believe that's going to be Lorenzo, who's going to be the last to cross the line in P10, as Vito ended up finishing a lap behind. Jordan a lap behind. Real DC, Synchro, and Mark as well a lap behind, as they take positions 11 through 15, as we're just watching Lorenzo cross the line there. But Oh my! What a race to kick things off here for Division 2.
What a win from Assassin. Somehow got the lead down in through the first sector. Did not look back.
Oh no, had a very strong qualifying showing, had a strong race, took the lead right from the first lap, and as he said, yeah, just didn't look back, just kept his head down, drove the race he had to drive, and got a very solid finish as we're seeing him celebrate with the champagne on the top step of the podium there. And he's probably extremely thrilled with that result. But there we have it. Congratulations to Assassin72 for taking the victory here in the first race of the Division 2 Championship. Faxland and Nathan JB share the podium, going second and third respectively. AJ, after qualifying on pole, only finishes in fourth, so maybe not the outing he was hoping for, with Dark going from 5th to 5th, so nice drive. Cruz from 15th up into 6th. So what a drive from him as he takes 6th with Krishna in 7th, Mats in 8th, Laparkta in 9th, and Lorenzo rounding out the top 10 from a P19 start. Vito finishing in 11th, so still a solid race with Jordan in 12th. Oh my goodness, with Jordan in 12th, Real DC in 13th, Synchro in 14th, Mark in 15th, Michael Fears in 16th, Stewart in 17th, Cohen in 18th, Nude Potato in 19th, and D-Morts rounding out the top 20. Just had to fly through that before I lost out, and it looks as though we have Passassin here in the comms booth. Passassin, are you able to hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to...
Oh my god.
Congratulations! That was an amazing showing, an amazing race from you. Take us through it. Take us through the start of that race from, I believe it was qualifying third, up to the lead after the first lap. Talk us through that.
I qualified second, AJ ahead of me on the final flying lap. Good qualifying by him, I gotta give that to him. Good pole position, well deserved. But yeah, all things considered, I just had a good start. Better start than him. Overtook him into turn 1 and never looked back. I just gave it my best and raced into the rain. Pitted at the exact moment, and turns out I had really good pace in the rain around here, so yeah, just pushed the entire race. My rear tires were on 80% at the end. I was hoping and praying to not get a puncture in the final lap. That's the thing.
Yeah,
that was a good race. First win.
Come only the second American in ISRL to actually get a victory here. The first being ISRL Pretzels, Tier 3 and 1. So, congrats on being the. It's hard to do. You managed it. Phenomenal race. I was worried about the tires there at the end. We saw Vito actually get a puncture on the last lap, but we saw the gap with Faxland grow, and then it began to shrink there. But you can see you're just letting off, just trying to ease the car home. So.
Yeah, I didn't want to push too hard on the last lap because I knew my tires were killed. So I didn't want to just spin on the last lap. That would be heartbreaking. But yeah, that's all I have to say. That was just, I gave it my best and paid off.
Well, congrats. You start the year in P1, so.
Yeah, that's oh.
Dang. Nathan. P3. Had to pit there at the end there. Tires got you outraced the tires there?
I didn't pit.
Oh, who pit?
My brother AJ and Chris pitted in front of me.
I got the Williams confused. Lord have mercy. No. Which one of you guys was it was AJ was on pole, right? I didn't see what happened at the start.
Yeah, he qualified pole by 2/10 ahead of me.
At the back. Yeah, at the back of the grid, I was looking because Laparkta went into anti-stall on the grid, so I didn't see how. I looked at the front, and the entire order was not what it had been in qualifying. So what happened there in turn 1?
Who, me?
Anybody at the front, because I missed it, and I saw the position change, and AJ ended up going from P1 to P4 before the end of lap 1. So
from my perspective, I don't know. I think I started P6, so I think I jumped 2 positions or 1 position in lap 1, but I didn't see anything at the front because Aston probably knows more about what happened to AJ.
Yeah, he did a pit stop.
No, I meant on lap 1, but...
Oh, on lap 1? I'm not really sure. He didn't have he didn't have as good as the start as me, and I managed to get the toe on him in the turn 1, and I just kept going. Outpaced even the soft runners, and I don't know.
Well, Nathan, you got to consider Williams. You both were so close to each other, even in qualifying. I saw that you had to stay out longer on that stint, right at the end, going from dry to wets. You knew it was going to hurt you, but you recovered pretty solidly, especially with the podium. But Williams as a whole, you guys look like very strong to take what Alpha took last season, but it was Alpha.
Yeah, they're leading right now.
Who? Alpha?
No,
Williams.
Cohen retired. Williams is leading.
Alright, yeah. I mean, yeah, I was quite happy about the race. It was my first time doing no ABS in the rain. I've only done like no ABS for a month. It was a struggle.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was good. I knew that when it was like lap 25, I think was the pit window, lap 24. He was telling me to pit. I was on like 30% tires, so I was like, there's no chance of pitting. I think I finished the race with 65% worn tires because I stayed out one lap longer. I think I caught Faxon by like 3 seconds within a couple of laps. So, but my penalties, I had no chance of fighting with Faxon, so I just kind of stuck behind him and just chilled because the guy behind me also had loads of penalties. Yeah, happy with the P3 and P4, I think, for Williams.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a solid haul of constructors' points for you. But congratulations to the both of you on your finishing positions. Were we able to get the our third podium sitter in for the interview at all?
I sent Faxon. I added him, but he did not join.
All right. Well, in that case, I think that's just about going to do it for us here for the first race here for Season 4 of the Division 2 Championship. As I said, congratulations to the podium sitters once again. And for those watching at home, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. But don't go anywhere. Make sure to tune in about a little under 45 minutes time for Division 1's race around the Austrian Grand Prix. So we hope to see you there. But on behalf of ISRL Esports, I've been Fallen Monkeys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next week, we will see you next time.